Well, this trip took us to Mount Hillyer in the San Gabriel Mountains, which turned out to be a very interesting and a very enjoyable hike. The hike began using the Stover Moccasin Trail out of Chileo Flat, with the first goal being the Horse Flats campground, a mile up the trail. And so, off we go. And it isn't long before we start getting some pretty views. As Dale looks over this one. And then we arrive at Horse Flat Campground. And here we don't find any campers, but we find some hitching posts and a lot of picnic tables. In addition to some nice wide flat areas for the campers when they're here. So we wander our way on through the campground and find the trail that will take us up towards Mount Hillyer. Another couple of miles up the trail. Looking ahead, we begin to see a bunch of boulders poking their heads out of the side hill. And then the terrain really does start to change, with piles and piles of boulders all over the place. And the trail wends its way around and by all of these rock outcroppings. And in one place we see this little bunch of flowers growing seemingly right out of the rock. In some places all these boulders made for some pretty slow going. Then we couldn't resist just taking a short break under one of these monstrous boulders. But we still had a chance to look around at some of the mountain scenery. Then finally the terrain began to flatten out as we approached Mount Hillyer. We followed this rounded, relatively flat area for quite some time, and I'm not quite sure what part of it is really called Mount Hillyer. But we were able to get some pretty good views from up here. And as you can hear, it was also a pretty windy day up here. And from this Mount Hillyer area, we took an alternate route to get back to the Horse Flats campground. This involved hooking up with the Santa Clara Divide Road, which wanders up through this portion of the mountains. Then it was back through the Horse Flats campground and along the same portion of the Silver Moccasin Trail to get back to the car. After a hike of about 6 miles with an 1,100-foot elevation gain.